Hello everyone, my name is Ariana. Today we're going to read a story called The Tiny Detectives. Can't Snow in the Desert. Meet the Tiny Detectives. The tiny detectives are very little. Indeed, they are also very curious. That's why they live in a bookcase, because even the littlest of people can find questions, answers to big questions. They dive into a book, and that's exactly what the tiny detectives do best. Dad, Mom, Chica, Bo, Oli, and Beetle. Wait a second, please. One bright sunny winter day, Bo asked a big question. Can it ever snow in the desert? Of course not, scuffled Oli. Deserts are hot. Everyone knows that. Bo was the smallest in the tiny family. Oli was the biggest, so Oli always thought he knew the best. Sounds like a job for the tiny detectives, said Tika, who was the middle one. Let's jump into a book and find out the answer, said Dad. So the tiny detectives climbed the bookcase. Mom picked a book called The Sand of the Sahara. Dad would read. Dad worn the red story thread around his waist so he could get back out of the story when they reached the end of their adventure and leap right into the stifling evening heat of the rolling orange sands of the great Sahara Desert. Phew, puffed Oli, taking off his jacket. Deserts are hot. You see, even in the winter, it will never snow here, Bo. I agree. It's unlikely, but lots of unlikely things are already happening all around us, said Mom. For instance, you would think deserts would be too hot for anything to live in. But look, it is full of life. Full of life. Look, a little flurry of bright ants dashed past the tiny detectives. Those are Saharian silver ants. And Mom had to run quickly over the scorching sands so they don't get burned. They reached speed for then their size are faster than a cheetah. How unlikely is that? And see over there, said Dad, pointing at a great big shiny scarab beetle. It's bundled. It bundled past them, rolling a big heap of duck. Scarab beetles are the strongest creatures on earth, said Dad. Some of them can lift over 1,000 times their own body weight. Not even an elephant can do that. That's pretty unlikely too. It's getting colder now that the sun is going down. Said Tika, looking thoughtfully up at the sky as evening dripped and the sun dripped below the horizon. There was a creeping chill in the air. I can't feel anything, said Ollie. All thoughtfully, he did give a tiny shiver. Deserts are extremely dry, said Mom. Said Mom. Dry air loses heat quicker than wet air, so deserts get colder at night and especially in the winter. But you need the air to be wet for it to snow, and it's never rained in the desert, said Ollie. Triumphantly, said Mom. Very terrifically. Well, that's not quite true, said Mom. Very occasional it can rain in the desert, but it is very, very unlikely for it to be cold enough and wet enough at the same time, argued Ollie as the air cooled around them. Unlikely, but it's not impossible, said Dad. Every now enough at the same time. And very unlikely to be cold enough and wet enough at the same time, argued Ollie as the air cooled around them. Unlikely, but it's not impossible, said Dad. Every now and then in conditions can be extra right, short enough sometimes, and big. White and flaky came drifting down from the desert sky and landed in the forest in front of the tiny detectives. "That's not snow," said Ollie. "That's a bit of chalk or something." But the snowflakes were joined by another and another. "Uh-oh," said Dad, as "I think we'd be better finding some shelter." "But there isn't any," said Bo nervously. "We are in the desert." "I've got my umbrella," said Ollie. "Now let's head to that higher ground over there." "Good idea," Ollie said. "Mom, now everybody run. Run." So the tiny detectives ran and ran until they reached the higher ground, where they all stood huddling under Ollie's umbrella and marveled at the miraculous sight of the winter wonderland in front of their very eyes. And then Dad gave them 3 big tugs on the story thread, and snow they were carried up through the snow and the sand of the African Sahara, back into the evening of the very own bookcase. "Okay," admitted Ollie. At last. "Sorry, Bo. Maybe it does snow sometimes in the desert." It's unlikely that Ollie's ever wrong," said Tiga, smiling. Ollie grinned. But it isn't impossible." Now this is what if you want to sign now. Let's do the search. Where is this? We have to find this. Found it. This is if you want to draw a snowflake. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.